Hey guys, it's Libby and happy Diversathon to you. Unfortunately, I am not able to participate in the reading portion of the Diversathon as robustly as I would like because I was already reading 6 books at the start of the week and I didn't think it would be fair to any new book that I started reading to pile it on top of all of those. But I thought I would make this little contribution. I read a lot of classics, and as you may know, most classics written by straight white guys. So today I'm going to recommend to you 5 books that were written before 1900 with diverse main characters. We're going to go through in roughly chronological order, which means we are starting with Plato's Symposium. This is one of Plato's earlier philosophical works, so it also kind of gives some biographical information about Socrates. And in it, basically, Socrates goes to a party with a bunch of other intellectuals of 5th century Athens, and they sit around and talk about how awesome love is and how Eros is the greatest of the gods. But since this is the intelligentsia of 5th century Athens, the love that they are talking about is between 2 men. Next, we're going to stay in 5th century Athens because that's what I have a degree in, and talk about Euripides' tragedy Medea. Now, in the story, Medea is from the ancient kingdom of Colchis, which is roundabout modern-day Armenia. You may have heard of her because she is in the story of Jason and the Argonauts. She helps Jason out, and then they get married and return to his homeland of Greece. Now, to us, Armenia and Greece may seem relatively similar. They're right next door, but the Black Sea was like a long way to go in ancient Greek times, and Medea definitely would have been considered other. And if she did actually exist, she probably would have been ethnically Persian. And in this play, Jason decides that he wants to be married to a nice Greek princess instead of some crazy barbarian princess. So he basically tries to abandon her in this country that is foreign to her, where she has no rights, and she ain't gonna stand for that. Medea kicks ass and takes names and exits the stage on a giant golden chariot pulled by dragons. Now, moving forward to millennia, let's talk about Edward II by Christopher Marlowe. Marlowe is basically the way cooler counterpart of William Shakespeare. There's evidence to suggest that he was both bisexual and an atheist, and he died in a bar fight. And the play Edward II is about the English King Edward II, who, fun fact, is my grandfather. And the play is mainly about Edward trying to balance pleasing the aristocracy of the time and pleasing his lover, Piers Gaveston. And the really interesting thing is that no one ever really comments that the king is in a homosexual relationship. Yeah, the rest of the nobility don't like Gaveston, but it's not because they're immoral or anything. It's just because Edward is making bad decisions and giving Gaveston, this commoner, power that the aristocracy think that they should have. And Edward and Gaveston also have some really beautiful poetry about each other, which is just, oh. I'm gonna warn you right now, it is a tragedy. Then we will fast forward again just a couple of decades to the publication of L'Histoire de la Marquise Marquis de Banneville, or in English, the story of the Marquis of Banneville. This is a very short book, more of an extended short story that has 3 authors. The first one is Charles Perrault, the famous French fairy tale writer. The next is Marie-Jeanne L'Héritier, and the third is the Abbé de Choisy, or the Abbot of Choisy, who, despite being a member of the clergy, spent most of his time dressed as a woman. The courts of Louis XIII and XIV, so that's the 1600s in France, had actually quite a strong transvestite and probably transgender culture. Now, the concept of transgender didn't really exist yet, so in the story it's kind of hard to tell who is actually a trans character and who is a cis character who prefers to dress as another gender. The story begins with a pregnant woman whose husband has died in the ongoing wars that Louis XIV kept creating, and she's worried that if she has a son that he will be drafted into the army and also die. So she does give birth. It is a boy, and she disguises him as a girl. Now, this is not a great start because your parents choosing your gender for you can cause a lot of problems for trans folks. But in this case, fortunately, it works out, so we'll move on. And we follow this child who is named Marianne as she becomes a teenager, and there's all sorts of amorous adventures, and it's also like a really gorgeous love story. So adorbs. The couple in this is probably my OTP. Now, this book is kind of difficult to find, especially in English, so I will leave a link below to the Amazon page. I don't think that there actually is a Goodreads page for at least the English translation. But you can get it on Amazon. The same is the case for the next book I'm about to talk about. It was originally written in French, and you can get it in English if you are willing to look hard for it. And that is Oreca by Claire de Duras. This was published in France in 1823, and it's kind of based on a true story. It is written by a white lady, but this is the first time in definitely French and possibly just like European literature that we have a female character of color. Oreca was born in Senegal, who has like an actual psychology as opposed to just being a caricature. She is properly the main character. When Oreca is a child, she is given as a present to a French family. Wow, that's gross. And it's about her trying to navigate the nearly unique situation that she's in. In the household, she's sort of treated as an amalgamation between like one of the daughters of the house, a companion of one of the daughters of the house, and a pet. She also has to deal with the issue of who she's gonna marry and whether she can like love herself. It's definitely an interesting read. I hope this has given you guys some inspiration to diversify your TBR, even if you, like me, are more into the classics. Hope you have a great day.